You're listening to the Birds on Power Lines podcast, and we're so glad you found us. In this installment, we're continuing our discussion of the third part of the Doctor Who 60th anniversary special, The Giggle. If you missed the first conversation, we hope you'll go back and listen to that podcast as well. If you recall, we were so excited about the third part of the series and wanted to talk about bigeneration and the entire story arc that we decided to go through the parts of the special in reverse order. And now I'll let you get back to our conversation on The Giggle.
And speaking of marionettes, in the scene with John Logie Baird's assistant and the doctor, well, I wasn't as personally freaked out by that one than I was with the one with Donna and Stooky Sue. That scene, I think, really definitely we saw the doctor very freaked out, maybe not quite as freaked out as he was when he was actually directly confronting the Toymaker, but definitely I think he definitely was very very nervous, very on edge during that entire interaction. And I think especially after the Toymaker did that weird stuff and turned the assistant into a representation of the doctor himself as a marionette, I think he definitely got much more very not uneasy after that interaction. And I think that part of the reason why that may have happened was because the doctor, we already established that he doesn't like feeling tied down. He wants to just keep moving, keep going. And I would assume with that, he also wouldn't really like to feel under control of someone or something. He wants to he really values his freedom. He values his ability to go wherever, do things, fix things. And I think he feels that if he loses to the Toymaker, then he'll be trapped, stuck forever in something that he can't control. And I think that he, in a way, is a bit worried of what will happen if he does lose control over all of these aspects of his life and everything catching up to him eventually. And that really struck something when I was watching it, and I really felt that personally, as someone who really is worried about the future in general, that really hit home for me when I was watching that. But I don't know how you read that whole interaction, but that's how I read it, and it really spoke to something.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I wasn't really thinking of him in that terms as being trapped by the Toymaker. I mean, I know he did say that in the Toymaker's reality, it kind of unraveled him because it just didn't follow any rules that he could understand, right? I mean, other than the rules of the game, I guess. So, I mean, I guess maybe, I mean, that's really a good thought. I think when I was watching it, I was taking it more, with the marionette becoming the doctor, thinking it more like that the Toymaker was letting him know that that the doctor was under his control, right? He could control whatever the doctor did and make him do anything that he wants. So I think in that regard, I guess it is sort of being the same thing like you're saying, being trapped, right? Being under the control of the Toymaker. And he's really desperate, of course, to escape. And that's why he just went running away out of absolute fear. And maybe, to try and help Donna, worry where Donna was, and as he always does, and then, but ironically, during the card game, the Toymaker admitted that there was something that even scared him. And I guess that's foreshadowing for something. I mean, I don't know enough about Doctor Who, obviously, to even guess what the toy maker's afraid of. But in terms of Donna, I mean, when she was with Stooky Sue and the Babbies, I mean, honestly, I think she's pretty secure in with herself, and I don't really think that she needs saving. I guess that's what she was trying to tell the doctor in that really touching scene when they were talking in the hallway, right? And you know, the doctor was saying, I don't know if I'll be able to save you this time. And she was saying, well, maybe I'll save you, right? And I guess in the end, that's what she ends up doing. And I just thought that was sort of an interesting twist to that. And she was giving the doctor advice because he was saying, oh, I won that game. So odds are, I think the first game. So the odds are that I'm not going to win the second one. And then Donna was, pretty assuredly telling him that that's not how it works because games don't have a memory. So I just thought that whole interaction was, one, talking about in the hallway, right? Because, when it really showed the vulnerability of the doctor and his whole state of mind at that point and questioning, what was he all about and who was he really without all of his toys. And Donna was already saying, I'm going to be here to save you. And I really thought that was pretty amazing. And I really think that is really exemplified when Donna was with, like I said, with Stooky Sue and the Babbies, because she really took control of that situation. And I think that it startled her, but I don't think she was afraid. I don't get the sense that she's actually afraid of much. I mean, she can be surprised and confused, but she made short work of Stooky Sue and put the Babbies in their place. So, yeah, uh, pretty cool. And of course, I know those doll things and those puppets really kind of freak you out. And I think they freak everyone out. They're designed to be that way. They're pretty freaky looking. So, but yeah, if you look online and you see what Stooky Bill actually really looked like, it looks pretty much like those puppets. So, yeah, that was pretty cool.
That really made me think about why, like, I and also probably many other people are so really afraid or freaked out of by puppets, and especially like marionettes like Stooky Bill and Stooky Sue and the Stooky Babbies. And I mean, I think it's because we almost perceive these puppets as being lifelike and alive and animated, but we know conceptually that they're not real, so they kind of venture into that almost like uncanny valley like territory where like how I was thinking with the doctor, where humans, we're afraid of feeling like we're being controlled by something or someone, kind of like that saying like, oh, you're just like a puppet on a string. And I feel like kind of the fact that the puppets look like humans or look close enough to humans that we would perceive them as such, but the whole absence of like a human, like, in the representation of the puppet, the fact that we don't really know what is controlling it, or who is controlling it, that's really the true scary part of the whole like just interaction with Stooky Sue that I felt that Donna had, even though she didn't know who really or really what the toy maker was, but regardless of that, she still was able to overcome her initial like shock of seeing this scary like puppet. And she initially said, oh, you're not real, this isn't real. And I think because she was able to really come to terms with the fact that this is not, I mean, it could have been real on a certain level, but she knew that this, what was happening to her, was only temporary. She didn't let the fear of whatever that freaky thing that was going on with Stooky Sue, she didn't let that fear control her. I think that really speaks to how strong Donna is as a character and why she is such a good like friend for the Doctor to have, and why she's so important in this whole story.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you that people can be pretty creeped out by things that are kind of real and not quite real when it comes to looking kind of human and marionettes. And I guess that's why some people are creeped out by clowns, I guess. I mean, I'm not creeped out by clowns, but I know you've told me that. But what you were saying kind of reminds me about this is off topic, but that the animation from the Polar Express, that Tom Hanks Christmas movie, I know when that first came out, I was reading that a lot of people were kind of found the animation a little unsettling because it was pretty lifelike. Like you could tell it was Tom Hanks, and you could tell that the people were almost looking right, but the fact that they weren't quite right actually kind of unnerved some people. Anyways, I just thought of that when you were talking about the feeling about the marionettes and the Stookie family. But yes, the Doctor clearly loves the Noble family, and I think that Donna's strength is just another example of the strength of that entire family. And he clearly loves them a lot, and of course that's why he ends up healing himself with them. But at the beginning of the episode, when they get out of the TARDIS and he sees Wilf, and he's just so happy and being reunited with him. I just wish they had more time for that reunion, because right away he gets taken away into the chaos of what's going on in the world, and is confronted by the insanity of what's going on. And then in the entire meantime, while that nonsense is going on with everybody thinking they're right and fighting and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, there's the toy maker just dancing through it, loving every minute of his game, right? And then finally getting whisked off to the unit. I just it was just quite fast and exciting. But yeah, I just wish he had a little bit more time with Wilf. Thinking about the Doctor's interaction with Wilf and then being whisked off, and all of the other things that happened right afterwards, to me is another case where art imitates life. And we're in our life, and we have these really precious interactions that are really important, and these are just so few and far between, it seems, between all the other things that are distractors from those important things. But of course, with the Doctor, it's just heightened, right? And that's why they're always saying that he just runs from one thing to the next. And Donna's like telling him that you need to stop, and you need to look after yourself. And I think that's a message for all of us, really. But obviously the Doctor's, as you could see in this episode, literally having a precious moment, and then very, very quickly afterwards, this tiny moment of time, and then off he goes, running from in the street trying to save people, and then being whisked off to the unit. It's just incredible if you think about it. And it really comes back to what I think is the whole theme of this episode, and that's trying to take time and take care of yourself, and understanding about things that happen in your life. And it's just, things just happen, and you have to learn how to keep living and existing and being happy, and understanding how things are, what things mean. And then of course when he gets to the unit, who does he see but Mel, right? He has this, again, a fleeting moment of joy when he sees Mel, and he hugs her, and everything is just wonderful. And then all of a sudden things get pretty serious pretty quickly.
But I mean, of course, who can blame the Doctor for like rushing all the time? Because he's often the only person who can save like this planet or that species or whatever. And I mean, if he's guilty of that, then I'm sure, I mean, I know I personally am also very guilty of that, and I'm sure pretty much everyone is, because we always feel like the world is kind of on our shoulders. And but the Doctor's been feeling like that for like centuries, and that's definitely like a very big lesson that both he and like countless other characters have to learn, like throughout the course of really all three of these episodes, but especially this last one, that like the world might be, or might feel like it's on your shoulders all the time, but in reality there are people who are there who are willing to like help you take on this burden. So like, for example, now the 14th Doctor also has the 15th Doctor, and of course, like Donna stuck by him the entire time, and like she was phenomenal, and everyone in unit, like Kate Lesper Stewart, and like everyone really just put everything down and said, how can we help? And it's even shown that like the Doctor was able to override all the commands of every world leader, like in unit. There's a special like code for him that he has much, like he does much more than he gives himself credit for, and there are people who are willing to give him that credit, like that the credit that he deserves for being such like a really impactful person, like across the galaxy, really, or across all of time and space, not even the galaxy. And that really, I think, is a very big, like one of like a very big theme in this episode, where like it's important to understand that there are people who are there, who are willing to help you take the time you need to heal yourself, and are willing to take on the responsibilities that you feel you have to carry by yourself all the time in order to like help you as you helped them in terms of the Doctor. But that really drives the point of the Toymaker, like not taking things seriously. It really drives that home for me. And it's because like everyone's like in crisis control mode, and here he is just lip syncing and having a grand old time, murdering people just for the fun of it, and really just in general enjoying himself. And it's really quite amazing how like serious Toymaker becomes when he actually does care, but he only really cares about like his games. And I think like his entire like character, his personality acts as like almost like a foil to the whole like concept of the Doctor, like where the Doctor's reasonable and like charitable, the Toymaker is kind of like chaotic and unpredictable. And like I think that kind of serves to almost humanize the Doctor. Like they're not like truly like an all-powerful being, because like the Doctor isn't really done with living life. Like that's why like a lot of times like the sentiment of every Doctor when before they regenerate is like, I don't want to go, I still have things to do here, I'm not done yet. And I kind of feel like since the Toymaker is so powerful, he's just bored, and he's like just taking that out on like anyone and everyone, whereas like the Doctor is just a really really old entity who helps wherever they can, because they're still like full of like really wonder, I guess, like wonder at the world, and like a desire to see more, explore more, meet new people, go on more adventures and whatnot. And I really just feel like, yes, the Doctor does go a bit fast like all the time, but I think that's because they just are so like excited to be alive. And yes, they've seen so many things, and they really do need time to heal from all of that. But even like at the end of it all, like when like the 14th Doctor sacrificed himself, he thought he was going to sacrifice himself, and then he bigenerated. I guess he had come to terms with the fact that, at least it seemed to me, he had come to terms with the fact that he had another chance and he did as much as he could, but there are more important things than like waiting for him in the future and waiting for everyone else in the future, that he cannot allow the Toymaker to completely like destroy, like, because he still cares about Donna, he cares about everyone. And it's really that he cares so much that he doesn't want to stop moving, even though he does have to. That's kind of how it seems to me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you've said more than I was like. There's, I think you've thought about it even more than I was looking at it. And yeah, I exactly. And I believe that, that beautiful moment when, the 15th Doctor is comforting the 14th Doctor, when he actually, when 14th actually rests his head on the 15th. And I think that that was such an iconic view of how much he really needed to accept himself, because he's essentially comforting himself, right? And like I said, I think that is really just such I said iconic, but I really think that is, and it really shows the Doctor actually grow. I know that sounds weird that the show's been on for so long, but I think he's really grown in this way, and that is, like I said, one of many images that is going to stick with me from this episode. Perhaps not as poignant, but just thinking about that part where you see the helicopter and the TARDIS is hanging from the helicopter, going over the city, and I thought that, wow. And I mean, that really was spectacular, because I mean, the TARDIS is actually another character, right? I mean, this is another being, right? I mean, we can't forget about that, and that sort of highlights that and lets everyone focus on the TARDIS. And I just thought that was such an amazing thing to see. And we've already talking about, legendary, what I think is going to be legendary scenes, the appearance of the Toymaker at the unit, of course, and then of course, bigeneration. Then in addition to that was that game of catch between, the two doctors and the Toymaker. I again, like, there's just so many moments in this third installment of the anniversary special that I think are gonna stick with me. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any more to add to that? I just, I'm sure there's just so many, but those are the ones that really, highlight in my mind things that I would want to remember from this episode.
I agree about that scene where they're playing catch, because I think the cutting between all three of them catching and throwing really serves to get the audience more involved, and I just love the energy. I mean, otherwise who would sit through an epic 3-minute villain battle scene where all they do is just throw a ball around? But I think my favorite scene happened when 14's just sitting with the nobles in the garden and just generally enjoying life and eating while he's reminiscing about the past and calling Roses his favorite niece and whatnot, and just reminiscing about his past adventures, and specifically really when he told everyone that he had given the moles in the yard a force field so that Wilf wouldn't be able to hurt them, because I think it really just showcased his entire the entire character of the Doctor, because the Doctor they do save the world, whatever world that is, thousands of times, but they're at their best when they do really just small things to improve the lives of others, no matter how insignificant it might seem, and especially the people they care about. And it really was just very sweet to see 14 get a happy ending, especially since I know the first time that we watched the episode, we totally expected something terrible to happen to him until the end credits rolled.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, who would have thought that an epic battle would have been a game of catch? And it was just so exciting to watch. I mean, that was just fantastic. So yeah. And it was really, really, really satisfying to have a happy ending for the Doctor. And yeah, it's true. We were watching all the way to the end thinking, oh, this can't be really happening. And then it was just so nice that it actually ended and nothing disastrous ended up happening. And he really did have his happy ending, so that, number 14 now can essentially convalesce and heal, and let 15 go on and have all of those amazing adventures. But what really gets me thinking about it, because Donna was saying that she didn't see at first, she didn't see what was in the Doctor's mind, but then at the end she actually did see. So it makes you wonder if she was just saying that because she wanted him to actually come out and say it himself, or maybe at first she couldn't see it and she was piecing it together, and then eventually was able to figure it all out. I don't know. But the other thing that was also great was that there was a doubling of the TARDIS. And in Wild Blue Yonder, right, we find out that she can escape if she's scared, right? So with the doubling of the TARDIS, maybe that's even allowing for the TARDIS to heal, because obviously she can also be afraid, right? And all of these things probably took an amazing toll, or a regrettable toll, on the TARDIS itself. Um, so yeah, and so there's just so much that was going on. And if you think back on the other two episodes, especially for me, I guess, in Wild Blue Yonder, there was a lot of, in my mind, foreshadowing for things that were coming. So yeah, maybe we should just, get on with talking about Wild Blue Yonder, right? Because honestly, I've had that song in my head now for the last week, so I think I'm ready to start talking about that.
Thanks for listening to our conversation about the third part of the Doctor Who 60th Anniversary Special. I think it's pretty obvious that we love the giggle. Listen for our next installments to catch our thoughts on Wild Blue Yonder and the Star Beast. We appreciate you being part of the Birds on Power Lines podcast. Take care of yourself.